Hello traders, good day to you all. This is Christopher Glen from Plus Financial, and this is the daily market review for the current market status. Today it is the 13th of March 2014, and actually we had a very liquidized market this week. We had an enormous amount of announcements, and it seems like the market at last already began to form some sort of direction. I can tell you that the market was very quiet for the last several weeks. I said that in the previous webinars, and I said that I'm expecting the euro to gain strength in front of the dollar. I'm expecting the Australian dollar to gain strength in front of a variety of assets, and I talked a bit about the Canadian dollar. Every webinar, I'm taking a specific currency and I'm analyzing its potential. Today, I'm going to talk about the euro specifically. I'm going to analyze the euro's potential in the next several days. We'll see whether he is heading toward a stronger expression or a weaker euro in the market. Going over the calendar, we had the variety of announcements regarding the Australian dollar during morning time, during the Asian markets time frame. That was a good announcement that had added an additional strength to the Australian dollar. The Australian dollar is among the strongest currencies in the market for the last several days, no question about it. The Chinese currency, I'm not trading on that one, so I can tell you that generally it did not affect the market. We know that China is trying to involve in terms of economy and to step back into the worldwide economy, into the global economy. Therefore, we should expect to see some sort of potential coming out from China, but not at the moment. Several months from now, that is my assumption. New Zealand dollar, another very strong currency in the market. I'm always saying that Australian dollar and New Zealand both are very correlated in terms of position around the world, because both stock exchange, the Australian stock exchange and the New Zealand market, they active at the same time, and they are not active at the same time, and therefore they reflect the market's condition, but usually you'll find them on the same potential, meaning that when the Australian dollar is among the strongest currencies in the market, I expect to see the New Zealand over there as well. So we can see that both currencies are reflecting a very large strength in the market. No question about that. Australian dollar and New Zealand are my choice for expressing strength in the market. We had several announcements regarding the euro, nothing important. We had a monthly announcement from the European Central Bank. Again, it's marked in orange, not really important one. We had several good announcements regarding the dollar. There we go. Unemployment claims, as we always have on Thursday. And that was a good announcement in front of the potential that we had over here regarding the forecast. And another good announcement regarding the dollar. Another good announcement regarding the dollar. Generally, we can't really. I can tell you that I'm not seeing a significant strength on behalf of the dollar yet in the market, although we've received several good announcements regarding the dollar. So basically, I left the dollar's position yesterday because I saw that the dollar is not showing me large confidence in terms of structure, and that's what I'm basing my analysis on. Therefore, I chose to stay away from the dollar. In the meanwhile, I was invested in the dollar versus the Canadian dollar. Did some good moves over there, but closed everything because I saw that it's going down. Therefore, I ran out of that position when I had the choice. Later on this day, we've got nothing, basically. Just orange announcements and yellow announcements, nothing really important. I can tell you that this Friday is going to be a very quiet Friday as well. Two very important announcements, that's all. 12:30 GMT US dollar announcement, PPI, and 1:55 PM, sorry, an announcement regarding the US dollar. Red announcement, another very important announcement. But again, remember that is Friday. Even though I'm expecting to see some sort of liquidity driven into the market from the announcements, red announcements, still it's Friday. Traders are looking for a potential to take their investment out of the market rather than staying in the market during the weekend, especially in weekends like this when we can see that a lot of issues are going on in terms of economy. I can tell you that traders are looking for the way out, not for way in, and therefore I see a very low potential in announcements during Friday, even though we've got red announcements. So let's go to the chart and let's start to analyze the euro. Let's see what's going on behalf of the euro. I picked several assets, euro versus the US dollar, euro versus the pound, euro versus Japanese yen. I remind you, we've talked about the euro several times. When I conducted a webinar several days ago, I assume it was approximately here, I said that I'm expecting the euro to gain strength in front of the US dollar, and indeed we've gained strength. That was approximately 100 pips of an uptrend movement. I still expect to see a continuance of an uptrend, not for a very long expression. I'm expecting the market to drop down again till this area, but this is a 15-minute chart. Let's really go further into the daily chart on each and every asset, and let's start to see what is the condition in terms of the euro in the market. Okay, so first of all, we can see that the euro on behalf in front of the dollar is in a very difficult position over here, and I'll explain why I'm saying that. Because we've received a very logical 5-wave downtrend movement according to the elite wave analysis. We've had we had a condensed corrective pattern, then a third large wave, and another pullback, and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That completes an entire impulse movement down. Now I can tell you that I've got a bit of difficulty regarding the euro versus the US dollar, because on one hand, if we're looking at a very long-term analysis, that's a weekly analysis, we're bouncing backward and forward around the same levels when we're looking at this structure over here. So there's a very large difficulty moving beyond that area. This area, because we've reached a very difficult area to cross, we've crossed that a bit, but still I'm not confident that we've received an enormous movement, and therefore I'm still looking for an additional strength before I'll state that the euro should gain more strength in front of the dollar. At the moment I see that area as a fluctuation level, at least until the monthly movement, the monthly candle will close above this structure. Going to the monthly, we can see that basically again the market is just bouncing backward and forward. We've received a cross on a monthly candle, but a pullback below will begin a very long downtrend movement. There's still a very it's a very crucial area, and again, if we're talking about an additional downtrend, once the market will break this trend line, then we're expecting to see a very long-term downtrend movement. At the moment, the market is bouncing backward and forward around the trend line. Therefore, I'm staying away. I've invested in the euro versus the US dollar for an uptrend movement, and I caught this movement that I talked about last week. But right now, obviously, I'm stepping out of this asset. I'm not trading the euro versus the US dollar, therefore I'm still waiting to see what we'll receive from the dollar index, so that I'll be able to actually use the strength or weakness of the dollar in the market. So generally, I'll say that in the on behalf of the euro, when we're analyzing the euro in front of the dollar, my assumption is that we will see a bit more uptrend. But generally, I believe that, that's a funny thing to say, I believe, because in the market you can't believe, you just need to analyze the market. But still, I believe that the market is forming a very logical structure toward the 72 level, which will climb till this area over here. Again, it's approximately 200 pips of an uptrend movement, and that will be the edge, that will be the toppest area that I'm expecting the market to reach. From that area, I'm expecting the market to drop down, at least to stop climbing. So at the moment, if I receive good potential for an uptrend movement on the euro versus the US dollar, a continuance of an uptrend, then I will take the trade, because again, it possesses a very nice potential for a further 200 pips of an uptrend movement. Let's look at the euro on other frontiers. Euro versus the pound. Euro versus the pound has reached a very, very important area again. In this circumstance, my assumption is that we will see the pound gaining strength in front of the euro. Still, again, it's a fluctuation level around this support and resistance line. We can place a line over here. And I really believe that, again, it's not an issue of believing, but in terms of structure, it seems like the market is forming a completion of an A pattern, a B pattern, and a C pattern. Therefore, my assumption is that we will see a downtrend movement. Nonetheless, I've got an indication on my indicators that the potential is downtrend potential. Therefore, on the daily chart, it's a very nice potential for a downtrend movement, a very long downtrend movement. A good thing to do over here is to go to 4-hour chart, and just to place trend line below this last movement that we've received over here. A cross below that and a close below that will signal that indeed the market is ready to drop down. Just talking a bit about structure, we've received an impulse movement over here, and an A pattern, a B pattern, and a C pattern over here. Another impulse movement over here, an A, a B, and a C over here. We're bouncing backward and forward around the same levels. My assumption is that we will still see a bit of an uptrend, and only then we'll break the trend line strongly. If you'd like to stay away from difficult situations, difficult scenarios, then just wait until the line will break and then take the trade. Do not participate in the trade for a put option, for a short position, further until the market will cross the trend line. So generally, my assumption is that, again, as I'm always doing, let's make a scale. We've talked about the euro. We've talked about the US dollar. And we've talked about the pound. At the moment, I said that my assumption, according to structure, is that the dollar should lose strength in front of the euro. But still, the pound should gain strength in front of the euro. Therefore, the pound should express a significant strength in front of the US dollar. Let's proceed with the analysis, and let's see if we've got other potential trades coming up on other assets. Canadian dollar still expressing a very large expression of weakness on behalf of a variety of assets, not just in front of the euro. Again, just as we've received in front of the dollar, just that here we've got a longer, stronger, and smoother movements. We've received a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. That's an impulse movement dropping down, a very smooth impulse movement dropping down. Right here we've received might be an A or a 1, a B or a 2, and a C or a 3. Therefore, anyway, we've got a potential for a downtrend and then an uptrend. Just that I need to concentrate on a smaller time frame to understand exactly where we're at in terms of structure on this uptrend movement. Let's go to the weekly chart. Let's add the elite wave indicator. Okay, so indeed, when we're looking at ABC pattern, then an A pattern, in this case, I'm pretty sure that we're looking at an ABC pattern, not in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, this is a 1, 2, 3 of A. This is the 1, 2, 3 of B, and right now we're forming an uptrend movement. Again, I'll go to a lower time frame to see in what area we're at in this structure. So looking at the daily chart. Okay, again, this is the entire A, this is the B, and seems like we formed the 1 of 3, the 2 of 3, the 3 of 3 is forming at the moment. 3 of C, sorry. And we should see a downtrend movement till this area. and then an additional uptrend movement approximately toward the 1.6 level. Let's see where it's putting us in the larger scale. What I'm doing right now, I'm measuring, when we're talking about chart analysis, we're talking about an impulse pattern and a corrective pattern. An impulse pattern is a strong liquidized movement. A corrective pattern is a correction that corrects that movement. If I stated at the beginning of my analysis that this is the impulse pattern and this is the corrective pattern, I'm saying that the impulse pattern is corrected by the corrective pattern. Then when I'm analyzing structure according to the Elliott wave analysis, I need to state what percentage of the impulse pattern I'm correcting with the corrective pattern. Therefore, we're pulling the Fibonacci retracement levels. You can't really use the Fibonacci retracement levels if you're not familiar with the Elliott wave analysis, because then you can't really assume what you're correcting. Correction and impulse patterns are attached one to another. There we go. We've reached a 61.8% retracement, a very logical retracement. I still expect to see a bit more uptrend, at least until the 1.6. As I stated, very logical uptrend movement. Again, still I'm expecting to see a downtrend and then an uptrend that will climb toward the 1.6. That will be the edge of this chart on my side, and then I'm expecting to see a stronger Canadian dollar. My assumption is that because the Canadian dollar is continuously losing a lot of strength in the market, eventually the government in Canada the economy in Canada will have to change something, interest rate, some sort of relationship with specific states, because any country that import merchandise and export merchandise has to keep a level that is a beneficial level in terms of strength and weakness of its currencies in front of the world. Therefore, just as we had in Switzerland, when the Swiss franc 2 years ago gained enormous amounts of strength because the dollar was losing strength because of the crisis that we had in the United States, then a lot of investors saw the Swiss franc as the safe shore of investment. Therefore, the Swiss franc was expressing a lot of strength in the market. A lot of traders pulled funds from gold, from euro, from investment in the US dollar, from stocks, and just invested in the Swiss franc. And we saw the Swiss franc gaining an enormous amount of strength. And at one point, Switzerland decided to make a change, to change the interest rate significantly. And since that point, we saw the Swiss franc losing a lot of strength in the market. That is the opposite effect that I'm expecting to see on behalf of the Canadian economy, expressing deviations, change that will cause the Canadian dollar to regain strength. Now, if we look at the larger movement that we had over here, let's look at the monthly chart, we can see that basically the Canadian dollar is indeed bouncing around the same levels for the last 20 years or so. So we understand that generally Canada is feeling pretty comfortable bouncing backward and forward around the same levels, but still I see this edge, the 1.6 level, as an area that will close this entire period of a weaker Canadian dollar, and we will start to see a stronger Canadian dollar in the market, expressing that strength in front of a variety of assets, and indeed over here in front of the euro. So I'm not confused about the condition of the Canadian dollar in front of the euro, but at the moment we're expecting to see a bit of downtrend and after that an uptrend. So generally right now I'm expecting the Canadian dollar to gain strength in the market. So let's just, for now, place the Canadian dollar in front of the equation higher than the euro. Again, I'm expecting the Canadian dollar to drop down below the euro 2 weeks from now, but for now my assumption is that we will see a bit of stronger Canadian dollar that will form a corrective pattern on this chart. That is the current assumption regarding the Canadian dollar specifically. So in terms of the dollar or the pound, I will not refer to the Canadian dollar because even though the Canadian dollar may express some strength in front of the euro, it's not a sufficient expression that I can count on, depending on the long-term potential. So let's look at the euro on other frontiers. Let's see what we've got over there. We've talked about, we've talked about the pound, the euro, the dollar, the Canadian dollar, Swiss franc. I'm not really analyzing the dollar versus the euro versus the Swiss franc. We know, as you can see, the chart of the euro versus the Swiss franc. Let's take this period for example. Since February 2012 until September 2012, we had 6 months of choppy and indecisive movement again. It's only forming because basically the Swiss franc and the euro came to an equivalent point, expressing the same strength and weakness in front of other currencies around the world. If you'll check the dollar versus Swiss franc or euro versus the US dollar, if you'll express them one in front of the other, you know what, let's do it over here. Let me open a new tab. We'll call it euro, US dollar and Swiss franc. I want you to see the correlation. Dollar, Swiss franc and euro versus the US dollar. There we go. I need a clean chart. And I'm going to take our weekly chart. Now, because the dollar is on the opposite side, over here it's on the left, a downtrend is a stronger Swiss franc in front of the dollar, and over here it's on the right, a downtrend is a stronger dollar in front of the euro. Then it will be a mirror. It won't be a reflection, a straight reflection, just a mirror of the structure. But let's look at it. Now we should see it horizontally, and again we've talked about since 2012, we've talked about February. So from this point and until December, August, February until August. There we go. And over here I'll mark the same areas again. 12 February till August. Again, that was my mistake. Yeah, okay. A weekly chart and a weekly chart. It's approximately that area what I want you to see. Because both expressed approximately the same movement in front of the dollar, it shows that they we haven't received a lot of deviation between the expression of the Swiss franc and between the expression of the euro. Whenever I'm expecting to see an announcement regarding the Swiss franc or the euro, I'm still expecting both assets to deliver approximately the same structure. Therefore, when I'm analyzing the euro in front of the Swiss franc, although both currencies are very active in terms of worldwide economy, still one in front of the other will see a very small deviations. Just as I explained regarding the Australian dollar and the New Zealand, both will express approximately the same structure. They are at the same area around the world, they're working at the same time. Therefore, I'm not expecting to see a lot of movement occurring from that side. So again, I won't really analyze this because my assumption is that we will see approximately the same structure revealed through each and every asset. The last one will be the euro versus the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen suffered from a very long-term weakness stronger economy in Japan is a weaker Japanese yen. We saw an uptrend movement on the euro versus Japanese yen, dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, New Zealand, all of them in front of the Japanese yen. We saw the Japanese yen losing a lot of strength in the market. Again, it is a formation of 5 waves of an uptrend movement that we've received over here. If I'll concentrate on this specific structure on a daily chart, again, it seems like we formed an A wave dropping down, we formed a B wave climbing up, and the assumption is that a bit more uptrend, and then I'm expecting it to drop down toward this area at least even more. So Japanese yen, I'm expecting to gain a bit strength in front of the euro. Let's place that on the scale. I'm placing the Japanese yen in front of the scale higher than the Canadian dollar, because again the Canadian dollar is expected to deliver a bit more strength during the next several days, but then for the further longer period I'm expecting the Canadian dollar to lose strength. So let's put the Canadian dollar out of the equation for now. As we can see, the euro is approximately in the middle in terms of strength and weakness, not really expressing a significant strength. I will not choose the euro as a potential asset to trade on, only in front of the Australian dollar. I can tell you that the Australian dollar again is my potential at the moment for stronger dollar, for stronger currency in the market, and the New Zealand as well. But for a long-term investment, a good potential will be pound or Japanese yen in front of the US dollar. Obviously, pound versus US dollar for an uptrend for a long position, and dollar versus Japanese yen for a downtrend movement. From here, from Financial Plus, I'd like to wish you all the best with your trades. Have a pleasant day, and bye-bye.